Hello, BookTube. I've been debating, as you all know, what we should do for our next read-along, for May's read-along. June will be the Iliad, but that still leaves us with May, and we have almost no time left to decide. And I finally decided to get down on my knees and pray for guidance. And I said, Lord, won't you help me to pick the next book for my next read-along on the BookTube? And lo, a voice spoke to me from on high, and that voice saith, hello? So, for May, we will be reading the 4 most important books, arguably, that have ever been written in the history of literature, and that is the 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So, any translation, any kind, certainly they are the most available books anywhere in the world, and we will discuss the Gospel of St. Matthew on Sunday the 6th of May. We'll just work our way through the 4 Gospels, and no matter how many times you've read them, you can stand to read them again. And if it's been a long time since you read them, or maybe you want to test out your ability to read them as books instead of Sunday sermons, now's the time. I have been reading these things forever. I love them with a passion. So this read-along will not be an exercise in gotcha. It will not be an exercise in nitpicking. It will not be, well, to use a word that I don't like, but in this context I guess it applies, it will not be disrespectful. Instead, it will be what I talked about in the first installment of my Western Canon Starter Kit that so many of you wrote to me and said you had a problem even conceiving, much less doing. It will be an exercise in reading these things as literature and sifting them and pulling them apart as literature. We will set aside, just for the course of our reading and discussion, the fact that millions and that billions of people believe in these texts, with italics in believe, that they do something with these texts that they don't do with Middlemarch. Well, there are some Victorianists who do that with Middlemarch, but we'll leave that aside. You know what I mean. There are people who worship focused on these texts, and we're going to leave that aside for this read-along. Instead, we're going to talk about them as ancient literature and see where we get. We'll see where we go. I think they're endlessly fascinating, so I think it will work, and that will be May. So each Sunday in May, we will discuss a gospel, and we will go in order, the synoptics first. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, and then John. So that's what our May read-along will be. Steve hath spoken. And then we'll move on to the Iliad. But let me know in the comments field. Excuse me, I have a frog in my throat this morning. Let me know in the comments field about questions of availability. That's the main question that I have here. And I have to assume that of all the easily available books anywhere that we could have chosen, the 4 Gospels of the Christian New Testament are by far the most available. So we can discuss in our discussions on Sundays, we can discuss the different translations and what you're getting or losing in each one of them. But I'm assuming that you all have easy access to these things. So that's what we'll do. I had emails and messages from enough of you. It really warmed my heart. I had emails and messages from enough of you saying, we trust you to just pick the book. To just go ahead and make the decision, even though this is not one of the candidates that was ever floated. So that's what we're going to do. I just want to make a quick video and announce it so that you can get yourself ready. Although these things take less than half an hour to read. An hour generously to read. The key isn't how fast you can read them. The key is how deeply you think about them. Sift through them. Really ponder what you're seeing. And as an extra bonus exercise, something that I always love to do, pretend there were no other Gospels. When you're reading the Gospel of Matthew, pretend there was nothing else. Pretend there was no oral tradition. Pretend there were no other Gospels and there were no church fathers. Pretend that you had no idea that a religion was coming from this. It's hard to do, but it can be done. What would you actually think of these pages? What's going on in these pages? What's making the strongest impression? If you divest it of all of its cultural bag and just look at it as if in some villa in Italy, a lost play of Euripides were discovered, and you were reading it for the first time. So we'll go through all we'll go through all of that. I just want to let you know before I get on with my day. That's what we're going to do for May. May will be the Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John in that order. And I will I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.